We were brothers, not by blood, but by something stronger. By shared secrets, scraped knees, and unspoken promises that bind you together when you ray young and think you ray invincible. We grew up on the same block, our houses mirrors of each other, our dreams tangled up like the branches of the old oak tree in the park. We shared everything: the first taste of cheap candy, the sting of our first fights, the awkward glances at girls we were too scared to talk to. Through it all, we had one rule, an oath sworn under a sky full of stars with the seriousness only kids can muster. We shook on it, a pact sealed with a mix of dirt and youthful bravado. No matter what one of us would say, we stay silent, the other would finish. It was our code, our constitution. It meant we had each other's backs, always. If one of us got into trouble for sneaking out, the other was right there, taking half the blame. If one got caught cheating on a test, the other would create a diversion. We were a team, we were unbreakable, or so we thought. That promise felt like armor. We believed it could protect us from anything the world threw at us. It was the foundation of our friendship, the one thing we were sure would never ever break. Years passed. The scraped knees healed, their awkward glances turned into clumsy dates, but the pact remained. It evolved with us, from childish mischief to teenage rebellion. It was our safety net. But safety nets are only good until the fall is too great. The plan, when it came hatched, felt less like a crime and more like a game. It was born from a mix of boredom, arrogance, and the foolish belief that we were smarter than everyone else. It was simple. Too simple. That should have been the first red flag. We'd cased the place for weeks, a small electronics store with what we thought was a lax security system. We knew the owner's routine, the delivery schedules, the blind spots in the camera coverage. We mapped it all out on a greasy napkin at our usual late-night diner. It looked perfect on paper. In our minds, we were masterminds, pulling off a heist that was more about the thrill than the money. The night of, the air was thick with a nervous energy that felt more like excitement than fear. We wore dark hoodies, our faces obscured, our hearts pounding a rhythm of adrenaline and anticipation. We moved like ghosts, just like we'd practiced. In and out, quick and clean. That was the idea. But ideas have a way of falling apart when they collide with reality. One wrong move. A foot snagged on a loose wire. A shelf of merchandise came crashing down. The sound was deafening in the silence of the night. It was a crack of thunder that shattered our carefully constructed plan. Then, a scream. A neighbor, woken by the noise, their face a pale oval in a nearby window. Panic, cold and sharp, replaced the adrenaline. We scrambled, grabbing what we could, our coordinated movements dissolving into a clumsy, desperate escape. We ran, but the sound of sirens cut through the night air faster than our legs could carry us. Red and blue lights painted the alley walls, bouncing off the brick, boxing us in. Our simple plan had spiraled into a nightmare, and the game was suddenly, terrifyingly real. The world shrank to the size of a small, cold interrogation room. The walls were a sterile, impersonal gray. The metal chair was bolted to the floor, as immovable as the knot of dread in my stomach. Cold cuffs bit into my wrists, a constant, chilling reminder of how badly everything had gone wrong. But the coldest thing in that room was the silence. It was a heavy, suffocating blanket. In that silence, my mind raced, replaying every mistake, every sound, every flash of light from the alley. The detective who came in didn't yell. He was calm, his voice even. He slid a coffee across the table, a small gesture of humanity that felt more threatening than any shout. He spoke about my future, or the lack of it. He painted a picture of years spent behind bars, of a life evaporating before it had even begun. And then he'd leave me alone again with the silence. In those long stretches of quiet, our pact echoed in my head. No matter what, we stay silent. It was a mantra, a prayer. I clung to it like a drowning man to a piece of driftwood. But fear is a corrosive acid. It eats away at loyalty, at promises, at everything you thought was solid. Fear speaks in whispers, telling you to save yourself. It paints your friend as the weak link, the one who's probably in the next room, making a deal. The silence became unbearable. The echo of the promise grew fainter, drowned out by the pounding of my own terrified heart. Fear spoke louder. And I started to talk. Across town, in a house that was supposed to be a sanctuary, the world was falling apart for my friend. He'd made it home, his heart hammering against his ribs, convinced he'd gotten away clean. He waited for my call, the one we were supposed to make to the burner phone to confirm we were both in the clear. The call never came. Instead, the knock on the door came just as dawn was breaking. It wasn't a gentle rap, it was a hard, official banging that shook the whole house. He saw the flashing lights through the curtains, the same red and blue that had chased us through the alley. His stomach dropped. Then came the names. My name, his name. The warrant. The confusion on his parents' faces turning to horror. Doors slammed shut, not just the front door of his house, but the doors to his future. The college applications on his desk suddenly looked like relics from another life. The dreams we'd talked about, of starting a business, of traveling the world, they collapsed into a pile of rubble. He was watching his life crumble in real time, and the worst part was, he didn't understand why. He had kept his mouth shut. He had honored the pact. But betrayal doesn't need two participants. It only takes one. He learned a hard lesson that morning. Crime doesn't build loyalty. It only measures how much fear a person can carry. And my fear had been too heavy. In the end, it didn't matter who talked first. The detectives were smart. They played us against each other, using my fear to secure his confession, and his shock to confirm my story. Two friends, two separate confessions, leading to two separate cells. The bond we thought was unbreakable had been shattered by the very thing we thought it could withstand. We had built our friendship on a foundation of us against the world, but when the world pushed back, we turned on each other. The pact of silence was just a story we told ourselves, a fantasy of honor among thieves. But there is no honor in a crime. It breaks trust long before it breaks the law. The promise we made as kids under the stars was incinerated under the harsh fluorescent lights of an interrogation room. We went from sharing dreams to sharing a sentence, separated by steel bars and a silence far colder than any we had ever sworn to keep. Real stories teach real lessons. If you want to explore more truths about the choices we make and their consequences, follow Moral Compass 01. Thanks for watching.